Welcome back, everyone, to our fourth episode of season 9 of the Truth and Freedom podcast, where awakening begins with asking the question most people are afraid to ask. I'm your host, Dr. Dan Amzalag, and this is not just another podcast. This is a journey into awareness, courage, and truth. Now, I want to begin this monologue by asking a question that may seem simple, but I encourage you to answer it too quickly. When was the last time you truly felt seen? Not noticed, not complimented, not liked on social media, not admired for what you do, but genuinely seen for who you are. There's an extraordinary paradox unfolding in our world today. Never in human history have we been so connected to technology, and yet so many people have felt much more emotionally alone. We carry devices that can reach someone on the other side of the planet in seconds, yet many of us struggle to have an honest conversation with the person sitting across the dinner table. Somewhere along the way, we begin confusing communication with connections. They're not the same. You can exchange hundreds of messages every day and still feel profoundly isolated. You can have thousands of followers and still wonder whether anyone truly knows you. You can attend crowded events, work in busy offices, and come home each night carrying a loneliness that words can barely describe. Now, the question is, how did we get here? I don't believe emotional disconnection happened overnight. It happened quietly, one small compromise at a time. We became busy. Then we became distracted. Then we became overstimulated. And eventually, we became emotionally unavailable, not only to our others, but to ourselves. Now, many people wake up and immediately reach for their phone before they even notice how they feel. Throughout the day, they scroll, reply, consume information, compare themselves with strangers, solve problems, meet deadlines, and manage responsibilities. By the time evening arrives, they are exhausted. Not because they've been emotionally connected, because they've been mentally occupied. There's a difference there. Being busy can often become the greatest distraction from asking ourselves the question that matters the most. Am I really happy through all this? What am I really feeling? What do I actually need? And what kind of life am I creating for myself? Now, those questions require silence. But silence has become something many people avoid. So why is that? Because silence often introduces us to ourselves. And for some, this is frightening. Think about it for a second. How often do you sit in complete silence without reaching for music, television, podcast, email, or your phone? Why does stillness make so many people uncomfortable? Perhaps because when external noise disappears, internal conversation begins. Conversation we've been postponing for years. The grief we never processed. The dreams we abandoned. The forgiveness we never offered ourselves. The relationship we know have changed. The exhaustion we've learned to ignore. Sometimes emotional numbness isn't the absence of feelings. It's the result of feeling too much for too long without giving ourselves permission to process it. Eventually, the mind says, enough. Instead of feeling everything, we begin feeling nothing. Many people believe emotional numbness protects them. In some ways, it may. It protects them from sadness, but it also protects them from joy. It protects them from disappointment. It also protects them from love. It protects them from rejection, but it also protects them from genuine connection. Now, the walls we build to keep pain out rarely know how to keep love in. That's one of life's greatest ironies. Have you ever noticed how often people say they're tired? I'm exhausted. I'm drained. I'm burned out. Certainly, physical fatigue exists, but emotional fatigue often runs much deeper. Carrying unresolved resentment is exhausting. Pretending you're okay when you're not is exhausting. Living a life that doesn't align with your values is exhausting. Trying to impress people who don't truly know you is exhausting. Comparing yourself with everyone else online is exhausting. Perhaps what many people need isn't a vacation. Perhaps they need emotional honesty. One conversation they've been avoiding. One boundary they've been afraid to set, one truth they've been unwilling to acknowledge. Because healing doesn't always begin by adding something new. Sometimes it begins by stopping the performance. Here's another thought. We often ask people, what do you do? Rarely do we ask, how are you really? And even when we do, many people answer automatically, I'm fine, I'm okay, I'm just busy. But are they really? Or have those words simply become socially acceptable ways of avoiding vulnerability? Imagine what our relationship would look like if we created space where people felt emotionally safe instead of emotionally evaluated, where listening mattered more than fixing, where curiosity replaced judgment, where presence mattered more than advice. One sincere conversation can accomplish what years of surface level interaction never could. Real connection isn't built by saying that the perfect thing. It's built by making another human feel being understood. And that requires something our culture often rushes past, which is attention. Undivided attention has become one of the rarest gifts we can offer another person. To put away distraction, to maintain eye contact, to listen without preparing our responses, to hear not only the words, but the emotions beneath them. That's where connection lives. Unfortunately, many of us have forgotten how to simply be with another person's experience. We rush towards solution because discomfort makes us uneasy. Yet, people often don't need immediate answer. They need someone willing to stay present. Perhaps the greatest expression of love isn't fixing someone else's pain. It's refusing to let them carry it alone. But this conversation isn't only about connecting with others. It's also about reconnecting with yourself. Because if you've been spending years ignoring your own emotional needs, your inner world eventually becomes unfamiliar territory. Healing begins when you become curious again. What am I feeling? What is this emotion trying to teach me? What have I been avoiding? What would happen if I finally listened to myself? Now, your emotions are not your enemies. They are messengers. Fear may be pointed towards something unresolved. Sadness may be asking you to grieve. Anger may be revealing a boundary that's been crossed. Joy may be reminding you of what truly matters. Every emotion carries information. Ignoring them doesn't make them disappear. It simply delays the lesson. So, as we end today's monologue, I'd like to leave you with one final reflection. Imagine that someone followed you for an entire week, not to observe your schedule, not your career, not your achievement, but your attention. Where does your attention go? Towards gratitude, towards comparison, towards meaningful conversation, towards endless distraction, towards fear, towards possibility? Because your attention quietly becomes your life. Whatever constantly captures your attention eventually shapes your reality. So, perhaps the greatest act of freedom in our modern world isn't disconnecting from technology altogether. Perhaps it's learning to reconnect with ourselves, with the people we love, and with the present moment. Because life is not measured by the number of notifications you receive. It is measured by the depth of the moment you fully experience. On that note, I'd like to thank you all for joining me on today's Truth and Freedom podcast, and I look forward to continuing this journey of awareness, courage, and freedom with you in our next episode. Until then, my loyal friends, stay curious, stay awake, and stay free.